How's it going, everybody? It's your host of Sports Moose here with the Sports Heap and, of course, your favorite Tampa Bay Lightning podcast, the Thunderdome Puckcast. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday afternoon. Feeling great. Feel like I got some sleep for the first time in a while over this weekend. Feeling recharged, ready to watch the Lightning jump into round 2 action tonight against those Boston Bruins. Our favorite rivals that we love to hate. This is going to be a heck of a series, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth. I hope everyone is having a great Sunday afternoon, of course. Great show tonight. Oh, looks like we got Teresa listening. How's it going? Thanks for jumping on. Today's show, we got round 1 recap, of course. Going to see which of the series we got right, a few that we got wrong. And then, of course, round 2 previews. 4 great matchups heading up in basically into the conference semifinals. We'll of course talk about the Bolts and Brins in depth, and we got some picks, $10 sports NHL picks. I made them last night on Risky Business, our quick pick show that we threw a video out. But don't worry, we got you covered for the NHL. So we'll go over those picks, even though one of those picks already not looking so great. But we'll talk about that anyway. All right. Let's hop right into the action, of course. Let's go over round number 1. Switch over to topic cam. Of course, big reminder, a lot of the podcasts finally have been dropping. So if you're a Spotify user, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, heck, even iHeartRadio, that is claiming to be number 1 for podcasts now. Whenever you open up the iHeartRadio app, I guess they're number 1 for podcasts for some reason now. Make sure you search for Thunderdome Puckcast. Our latest episode should be up there, including episode 22, which we uploaded last night. And we'll have this one, episode 23, up there as soon as we finish tonight, or this afternoon. And, of course, don't forget, Lightning playing 8 Eastern tonight, so we'll make sure to have a nice reaction show for Game 1 of Round 2 for the Lightning. All right, let's jump into that Round 1 recap. And we've got the bracket right in front of you. Some really great series. I think a few of these, most of these went the way we thought they would. Vegas, Chicago, just about right. 4-1 in favor of the Knights. Corey Crawford stealing one of those games, but at the end of the day, he just knew it wasn't going to be quite enough in order to beat Vegas. Vegas has been looking super strong this year. Great performances by Robin Lehner and even Marc-Andre Fleury jumping into the mix, backstopping one of those victories. But Robin Lehner, really a question of revenge on his old team, the Blackhawks, who traded him away. So I'm sure he was feeling pretty good about that. Colorado and Arizona, this looked close at the beginning, right? But those last 2 games, Colorado absolutely blasting Arizona. A pair of 7-1 shellackings at the hands of the Avalanche. So Arizona kind of leaving the tournament on a sour note, and then the day after they get back to I guess Glendale, lots of the Arizona staff being furloughed, which is crazy. You know, citing difficulties with coronavirus. So I guess even professional sports are feeling the heat from coronavirus. So we got 2 of those series right on the West. The 2 that we got wrong, however, in the West, and Dallas coming out of nowhere. I thought Calgary had them. I thought this was going to be a 6 or 7 game series in favor of the Flames, but we talked about the liability of the Flames being goaltending and general defensive support, and that's exactly what it ended up being. They went with Cam Talbot. He was strong early on in the series, pretty dependable, but I feel like that dependability really, really dropped off. You're looking at games 4, 5, and 6. A couple of crapshoots, a couple of shootouts. Not literal shootouts, but, 5-3, 5-4. Lots of high-scoring games toward the end of this series. Dallas all of a sudden learned to score goals. Where did that come from? I was taking the under on a lot of their games. But towards the end of the series, finally getting the puck in the net. And that could make for a dangerous Dallas team they had been hopping back and forth with Khudobin and Bishop. Khudobin having a couple bad starts, so Bishop getting some action. Khudobin actually starting last night against Colorado, which for me was an interesting decision. I thought it was going to be Bishop all day. But I guess statistically, Khudobin's had the better numbers. And we'll talk about the Avalanche and Dallas series shortly. But for me, that was a surprise. And I think the biggest first-round surprise, first-round exit for the former champs, the St. Louis Blues, out of the tournament. We're going to have a new champion, everybody. The last two champions are now out of the tournament. St. Louis Blues bowing out pretty easily. Vancouver, and I take ownership of this. I didn't think they were ready for prime time. They are the real deal. This is the young team that's only going to get better, not only just this postseason, but as the seasons come up, this team is going to be phenomenal. Vancouver's probably going to. I would put my money on Vancouver's the next Canadian team that at least plays in the Stanley Cup final in the next few years, and they could be good enough to win this finals up in the next 3 years. Write that down. Record this clipping, so when Vancouver wins a cup in the next couple years, it was Moose who said it first, right? So Vancouver taking it, was it 6 games, I think, against the Blues. They look impressive. They're getting great goaltending from Markstrom. They're scoring goals. Again, you're looking at Bo Horvat leading the way, and Hughes on the back line, young stud defenseman. I'm telling you, very similar mold of Victor Hedman. Give him a few years to develop, and he's going to be a rock star for Vancouver. So excited for them. They're maybe one of my favorite Canadian teams. All the others, they're either in our division or you don't like them as much. I like Vancouver. Vancouver's all right. So I'd be rooting for them. And then, of course, we'll talk about what their chances look like against the Vegas Golden Knights coming up in their round 2 matchup. Out in the East, of course, got all the series right. You got to look at those green check marks. Start up top with Philly, Montreal. We knew this was a mismatch, and honestly surprised it went 6 games. Carey Price, similar to Corey Crawford, stealing a few games there. Yeah, making Philadelphia sweat a little bit. Of course, Philly had a big stinker. Was that a 5-0 loss to the Canadiens? But overall, you knew Philly was going to win this series. Kind of an easy pick there. So Philly moves on in 6. The 2-7 matchup, of course, Lightning Columbus. Really thought this was going to be a 5 or 6 game series that was going to ultimately come out in the favor of the Lightning. Of course, fingers crossed, right? After the debacle last year, 4-0 sweeping of the Bolts after a record-breaking season. It looks like we got over those demons. We've talked about it. We've talked about that series ad nauseum. I'm not going to go into details. Listen to the past podcasts if you want to hear some more details on the past few games. And, of course, our live reaction shows are available on Facebook and archive. So look those up if you really want to know what Moose was thinking about most of those games. Again, no surprise. I thought the Lightning were going to pull this one off. I think maybe the surprise in the East, but we did call it, the New York Islanders over the Washington Capitals. Caps are out once again. And they fired their coach immediately. News coming out this morning that Reardon was fired. So, and I guess that's what happens when you lose to your former coach, Barry Trotz. Of course, we talked about this during the preview for round 1. What a great story. Because I was a Barry Trotz fan, even as he was in our conference with playing against the Lightning when he was coaching Washington. Always had respect for Barry Trotz. He just always had to respect the guy. Great coach. Never could find that way to get to the cup, and then he finally did it. Wins the Cup of the Capitals, and then he kind of doesn't get paid, and he's like, well, I'm going to take my talents to Long Island. And he's got a young team that I'm scared to play. I mean, I think the Islanders face up match up the best against the Lightning, and I'm glad we are not playing them this round. Hopefully Philadelphia takes care of business and we play a Philly team that I think we match up better against, but I think New York could pose some problems if it's Bolts Islanders in the conference finals. But anyway, big thumbs up for the Islanders. They get the prize of playing the hottest team right now. Philadelphia Flyers in the round 2 matchup. Lightning moving on, of course, and they get to play our division rivals. Little disappointed with Carolina's performance. I mean, when you look at the tail of the tape a few episodes ago, we kind of gave them a chance, but ultimately I picked Boston. Then the news of Tuukka Rask opting out of the rest of the postseason came out. Panic, I'm sure, ensued in Boston. Lots of not nice things said about Tuukka Rask. Come on, guys. It was a family emergency. Give the guy a break. He actually might be back. Who knows? But Jaroslav Halak has stepped it up, and they haven't missed a beat. I mean, I would almost argue that they're playing better in front of him than they had against Tuukka. A lot of critics will say Tuukka didn't look super interested in the round robins, and even the first couple games of round 1. There might have been, his head might have just not been there, maybe knowing things back home weren't exactly great. So, we wish him and his family the best. But make no mistake that Halak is no slouch in net. His numbers are right up there with Tuukka Rask. So, this is by far not a cakewalk for the Bolts. I do think they match up pretty well. So we'll look at that matchup in a moment. But that's been your round 1 overview. Moose scored 4 for 6 or 6 for 8 on the series. I'll take that 75%. I wish I got them all right so the bracket challenge would be in good shape. But that was a tough call. I think, I probably should have taken Dallas, but Vancouver, St. Louis, that was a tough one. I mean, seeing the way St. Louis played through the round robin, it's a little bit more feasible, but really that one really was a surprise for me. The Vancouver series, didn't think they were ready for primetime. They're ready. I'm curious to see how they're going to do in round 2. Tough matchup against the Vegas Golden Knights. All right, move on to round 2. Let's talk about round 2. One of the games kicking off last night, of course. I was hoping to get episode up by last night just to catch it, but that's okay. We can talk about game 1 as well. Round 2 previews. Tail of the tape is up. And of course, all our shows are live on Facebook. If you're a podcast listener, you always want to watch us live. I usually put the announcements out there. We usually do a couple days a week, usually Wednesday nights for sure. So if you want to pencil Thunderdome Puckcast in, Wednesday nights, 10 Eastern, 9 Central is usually when we go live. And we'll have some shows here and there as well, but that's usually our big show night. So if you're not watching live, make sure you can watch the replay or join us here on Facebook Live at the Sports Heap, so you can see the audio visuals as well. Tail of the tape is up on your screen. Dallas and the Colorado Avalanche. Dallas 5-4 so far in the playoffs. Now 6-4. With a big win, unexpected win, against the Colorado Avalanche last night. And Colorado 6-3 now in the playoffs. Pretty strong regular season record. Got a lot of stuff in their advantage. I think unquestionably offense in favor of the Avalanche. I want to say they outscored the Stars by a significant margin, like 50 goals over the season. So Colorado, I think, had the second most prolific offense other than the Lightning this season, in the regular season at least. And they were looking good in the first round of the playoffs as well. So offense, I think, is a clear advantage to Colorado. Dallas definitely not known for their scoring, despite what they've done the last 2 or 3 games. So I'm still kind of like, oh, wow, Dallas could score now. So I think that's going to be really interesting. They certainly found a way to score last night. I think it was a 5-3 final with Alex Radulov getting on the score sheet. I think had a 3-point night, 2 goals and assist. Defense was really tough to call. I think I'm leaning on Colorado here, but I put them even. And the only reason that it might shift towards Colorado is when you're looking again at those statistics, like how many scoring chances have been given up. They're pretty even. Colorado's given a little bit fewer up. But again, when you're getting into nitty-gritty, high danger against, Colorado with a significant chance there. Significant advantage there. And then again, it's about that opponent's high danger conversion rate. You're looking at 10.4 versus 14%, with Dallas at 14% with the conversion rate. I can tell you those 4 percentage points make a big difference in the playoffs, and really there's a discrepancy of 10 goals over the season. Doesn't seem like a lot, like a 10 under 10% of the total goals against for both teams. Actually, more so getting close to 5%. I'm telling you, the playoffs, every percentage point counts, and that's really what pushed me to keep the defense even and not push it towards Colorado. Was that Dallas controlled a lot of their scoring chances against, and that we were looking at goals given up for the whole season. Dallas was among the best, only 174 all season long. Colorado up at 190, 191. So, again, some of that is goaltending. When you look at Khudobin's numbers, like we'll do when we're looking at goaltending next, those goaltending numbers are pretty staggering. He had a great season. But Colorado goaltending had a pretty good season as well. But now question marks abound. And I think I have to move my check mark back over to Dallas. This was done before before game 1. So, kind of cheating here. I want to move that check mark from the Avalanche back to Dallas because Philip Grubauer is now hurt, and he was basically carried off by his team. And that's not great news. He's the goalie with the most experience. Again, Francouz, I think it's Francouz. Statistically better, but also statistically younger. A younger goalie, may not have the experience in the playoffs yet. Grubauer kind of had a weird situation backing up Holtby, with Holtby's shortcomings the last season or two in Washington. So it's not exactly that Colorado's getting a dud goalie to play. It's just you're getting an inexperienced person who's in there, had a great regular season. I mean, some great action against the Lightning. I think he started the first game against the Lightning back in, that was October, November of 2019, and basically stole that game for Colorado when the Lightning, when they came to Tampa. So the reason I had given it over to them again was the experience and not knowing who was going to start for Dallas. I mean, they had been going back between Khudobin and Ben Bishop, and then sometimes we're very confident Khudobin, and Ben Bishop was hurt. Now he's not hurt, so we don't know who's starting. The answer came in round 2, game 1 last night, that they were going to roll with Khudobin. Had a pretty decent game, only gave up 3 goals, so it looks like they'll keep rolling with him. But again, statistically, now that we know that it's going to be in Francouz's hands, it's got to be. You got to shift that favoritism in goalie over to Dallas. Power play and penalty kill, at least for the regular season, pretty even. 81% on the PK for Colorado, looking at 79 on the PK for Dallas. However, those numbers basically flop on the penalty kill for the regular season. On the power play, I should say, 19 for Colorado, and Dallas with an advantage at 21.5%. So putting them even. Again, it's going to depend on who commits more penalties. Penalty minutes per game, pretty even. They're both committing about 4 minors a game, giving up 4 power plays a game. So it's going to depend. It's going to be that 1 or 2 goals that are scored on the power play that could make a difference in this series. Let's look at game 1 really quick, by the way, before we get into coaching. 5-3, Sagan on the board. Blake Como, good to hear Blake Como's name. It's only Sagan's first goal in the playoffs. Maybe he's starting to get hot. Jamie Benn on the score sheet there with an assist. Radulov had a heck of a game, 3-point night. He had 2 goals. Rupe Hintz, Klingberg, good to see him on the scoreboard. Nate McKinnon, of course, with an absolute amazing goal early in the first to tie the game. A little bit of a back and forth there in the first period. Pretty even game, though. Shots were even, 31-30 Colorado. Hits were pretty even, a little bit more physicality coming from Dallas. Face-offs, a little bit slight advantage for Dallas. And again, penalty minutes, you're looking at 4 to 6. Those complimentary drop of one penalty per team for the playoffs, calling it a little bit looser. Game was pretty even, but again, I think the story is always told by the shot charts. And you see a lot of Dallas shots, more so in high danger areas versus Colorado. And I really think Khudobin had a great game. Great game. Made some huge saves from the highlights that I've seen. And again, Radulov, number one star, Nate McKinnon. McKinnon had 2 goals too, and 1 assist. So this is going to be a great series, in my opinion. I'm a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I think Dallas is hopefully finally finding their game. So that's what I got for Dallas and the Avs. I think the official call here, of course, coaching-wise, of course, we talked about Rick Bowness and Jared Bednar making some pretty interesting statements to try and motivate his team, saying that they weren't ready to go here in Game 1. So I'm going to call the coaching even, given that Rick Bowness is in the interim category, while Bednar is still a young head coach. Done a great job wrangling this young core and getting them ready to compete for the Cup this year. Overall, I just think Colorado's a little bit of a better team. They perform better in the regular season, and I think they end up winning the series. Though I think this could be a 7-game series. Actually, pretty impressive Dallas so far. So moving right along, let's talk about the Islanders and the Flyers. I think this is going to be a heck of a series out east. No surprise that the Islanders moved on to round number 2, in my opinion. Definitely not a surprise. Called that one. But a little bit of a surprise has been Philly's play as of late. Both teams are 7-2 in the playoffs so far, including round robin play for the Flyers. I think they won all 3 games in the round robin, and then 4-2 against Colorado, or against the Canadiens. So let's take a look. Offense, I think, unquestionably in favor of the Flyers. I think 227 goals for in the regular season. Islanders not getting to the 200 mark. They were the lower half of the league in terms of offense. So Philly, you know the people by name. Giroux, Konechny's come on strong. I mean, more household names for goal scorers for the Flyers. Probably look at some of their offensive statistics as well. I mean, just shot percentage wise, 10.5% for the year. Carrying play in terms of 5-on-5 when you're looking at Corsi and Fenwick. The Islanders are mostly kind of on the bottom quarter of the league in Fenwick in terms of 5-on-5 play. And then when you're looking at high danger, actually conversion rates, almost 18% for the Flyers there for high danger conversion rates. That was among the leaders in the league, other than Nashville, which kind of an anomaly there. 18.6% on high danger chances. High danger against, pretty even at about 13 to 14%. Their defense, New York's known for their defense. They're a defensive team. I don't know. I mean, this was tough to call in the defensive front. Goals against pretty much at a deadlock. You had a slight difference in shooting percentage, or shooting percentage against, so I guess save percentage. Some of that depended on goaltending play. But again, you're looking at high danger against, pretty identical, and again 0.5% in favor of Philadelphia's defense, or New York's defense, 13% versus almost 14% for Philly. So I'm leaning towards a New York Islanders advantage on defense, but I scored it even. Just given some of the goalie play that there's been for both teams. Speaking of your goaltenders, it's going to be Carter Hart versus Semyon Varlamov. No controversy here on who's starting, and both goalies similar type numbers. Carter Hart, 242 goals against average, save percentage of 914. Semyon Varlamov, a .914 save percentage, with his goals against average of .262. So, again, we talked about our GSAA, goals saves against the average, 5.56 versus 4.47. Varlamov and Hart, respectively. Dead heat. If you're going to give an advantage, it's going to be Varlamov because he's played in the playoffs before. This is Carter Hart's first playoffs. I scored him even there. However, let's go back and look at the PK and the PP. Scored that with advantage for Philly. Power play at 20.8% and a PK of 81%, while New York's kind of behind 17.2% on the power play and 80% on the PK. Slight advantage for the Flyers again. It has to do with their offense. Penalties per game, they're both around 8 per game, so you're looking at 4 opportunities aside on average for both teams. Coaching, we just talked about Barry Trotz, and I think one of the most phenomenal coaches in the league. No different this series. I think is Philly in. I don't know if Philly's in interim coach category quite yet, or I forget who's coaching Philly these days. But I mean, clearly the advantage goes to Barry Trotz. Overall, though, I think Philly's a better team, and I think this one goes a distance. This is going to be a 7-game series. I think Philly pulls it off 4-3 to move them on to the conference finals. Back over to the West. And we've got a pretty interesting matchup here. We got Vancouver against the Vegas Golden Knights. Vancouver's not supposed to be here, right? Vegas is 7-1 so far in the playoffs. Vancouver's 7-3, right behind them there. Regular season was kind of mixed for the Vancouver Canucks. Of course, only 78 points through about 70 games. Vegas had a pretty strong year. That was or was not without some controversy. Of course, the big news so far has been Marc-Andre Fleury's agent posting a Twitter picture of Marc-Andre basically being stabbed by a giant Vegas Golden Knights sword or claymore, like through the back. Very gory, actually, some blood. And then on the sword it says DeBauer, like the coach, Peter DeBauer. Of course, this in response to Robin Lehner getting the start in goal, even though Fleury's been the franchise goalie for all of Vegas' existence. I don't know. I mean, it's tough. That's a tough situation. You want to respect Marc-Andre and everything he's done for not only the Penguins, but also for Vegas coming over in the expansion draft. But Leonard's just been the better goalie. He's been the better goalie. There's no denying that. There's no denying that Leonard, in my opinion, deserves a start, and you got to give DeBauer credit for making the move. I think he gives him a better chance to win until proven wrong, and maybe Vancouver lights up Robin Lehner. Well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Game 1 for them, of course, is tonight, right after the Lightning game. I think it's 10:30 Eastern if you're interested in watching Vegas and the Vancouver Canucks. Let's look at their stats. Did we talk goalies? Oh, yeah, we talked goalies for Varlamov and Carter Hart. Let's talk stats. I mean, it's clear offensive-wise, pretty even when you're looking at goals for. However, the reason for the advantage was, I believe, the conversion rate, and the Knights converting at 3% more and just generating way more scoring chances. When you're looking at scoring chances generated, there's a difference of about 250 over the course of the year. And, at converting a full 3% more, that's, what is that, 6-9 goals that they've scored more just because of being in the right place at the right time. So that is why I've scored better for offense for the Vegas Golden Knights. Defense, a little bit more clear-cut. Of course, not as much experience on the Vegas back line. However, when you're looking at high-danger scoring against, Vegas up at 15% conversion rate on defense. Vegas down at 12.5%. So, again, that 2.5% makes a big difference. And it's about the scoring chances allowed. High danger, a little bit more even. Vancouver still up by about 20 chances, but We're looking at just general scoring chances against, a staggering difference of 200. And, whether they're high danger or not, doesn't matter. That's rubber flying at your goalie. You got to be careful with that. So offense, defense, both in Vegas's wheelhouse. Goaltending, I scored him evenly, mostly because Markstrom may not necessarily be proven. He's the one getting the start. Great season. I mean, when you're looking at GSAA, 11.4 above average, almost a 9.20 save percentage, goals against 2.75 against. Again, question of defense there. Robin Lehner's numbers are a little tough to decipher, with a few of his starts being with Chicago, and we all know that defensive situation this year. But Marc-Andre Fleury's number is not great. Again, GSAA, and he had, he's played in 40-something games for Vegas this year. He's at a minus 6.5, so he's actually hurting the team a little bit. Their goals against average 277 and right at 905 save percentage. Leonard's numbers are just better. I mean, his GSAA is a 12.67. I mean, that's almost infinitely better than Marc-Andre Fleury. Goals against average a little bit higher, but again, that's a consequence of playing in front of Chicago for half the year. So advantage in goaltending, I'm going to put it even. Again, just because we don't know who's going to, right now it's going to be Robin Lehner starting for the Vegas Golden Knights, but a little bit of controversy there, and Markstrom has been playing well. So got the goaltending even. Power play and penalty kill. Special teams actually going in the favor of the Vancouver Canucks. When you're looking at the power play and penalty kill numbers, power play Vancouver actually had one of the best power plays in the league at 24.1%. Penalty kill right at 80, where Vegas's PK 76.6% and power play at 21.99. Nothing to sneeze at the power play percentage, but when you're playing, Vancouver must have been number 2. Let me do this by ranking here. Yeah, actually 4th best power play in the league for the Vancouver Canucks. So advantage on special teams for the Canucks. Canucks, however, take a little bit, on average, take more penalties than Vancouver, or than Vegas. Vegas right there at 4 minors a game. So, yeah, they got to be careful. They got to stay out of that box because that Vancouver power play can be deadly. Coaching, I think that goes to Vegas. I think Vancouver's in a young coach situation, or not quite interim, I don't think. Vegas, of course, having experienced Peter DeBauer. Call it what you will, with his experience in San Jose and getting the job done or not getting the job done. I think he still has the chops to be a legitimate coach. And overall, I think Vegas matches up pretty well against Vancouver. I'm curious to see how they can make it work. I'm calling Vegas in 6 on this one. I think this is a close series, but ultimately I think Vancouver's youth bleeds through, and Vegas's experience ultimately is going to take them to the conference finals once again. Unbelievable for this is 3rd year of operations for Vegas. Going to make the conference finals twice in 3 years. That's absolutely fantastic. And now, of course, the matchup we've been waiting for. Let's talk about Bolts and Bruins. This is the heavyweight fight of the 4 matchups, in my opinion. Basically number 1, number 2 in the league here, at least in the East, finally getting together for another meaningful playoff series. And they're always meaningful, but this is a huge one, especially coming through a season riddled by coronavirus. This is the matchup we wanted to see, and I think this was potentially the massive matchup we wanted to see as a conference final. That's not the way it's going to shake out, but can't wait to see this in action. I mean, this is really where the Bolts are going to earn their money here. 6-2 in the playoffs with the Bolts so far. Boston kind of a lackadaisical 4-4 with their round robin play not being great, losing all 3 games, but coming out on top of the Carolina Hurricanes 4 games to 1 in their series. Offense, no question, is in favor of the Bolts. Number 1 offense in the league. They've looked questionable against Columbus, when you're looking at offensive numbers straight up, kind of mid-pack in the playoffs, but I think Columbus was a tough defensive team that was, truly committed to their system. We talked about it in many of our episodes. It was just truly impressive how they could maintain that for as many games as they did until the Lightning finally broke through. Floodgates open, and the Lightning were able to score finally. So expect much the same with the matchup against the Bruins. Bruins defense is much better. I think, obviously they're not going to play a collapsing system like Columbus, but I think they have a veteran defensive core that can also move the puck, which I think is going to be a little bit different than Columbus. Columbus was very focused on defensive play, clogging up lanes, shot blocks, capitalizing on mistakes, which the Bolts made quite a few, which resulted in odd-man rushes the other way. Boston's going to go punch the punch with you. They're similar. They're going to force you to make some bad choices, but more so, it's a pretty evenly flowing game. It's no true trap type style like Columbus, I feel, was trying to do. They'll get in your shooting lanes as well, and they'll get pretty physical. So I expect this to be a very, very physical series. Again, no question that the Lightning's offense was, number one in the league. Boston, though, not far behind, only about 15 goal differential. Goals against, however, is a big story. I think the Bruins and Tuukka Rask and Jaroslav Halak winning the Jennings Trophy this year with the fewest goals against. Oh, wow, Dallas right up there, 174. So I think defense-wise, that goes to Boston. But goaltending-wise, I thought about this one for a good 5 minutes. I wanted to put him even, but I put it at Vasi because you got Jaroslav Halak jumping in there. Though, he's looking great, right? If it was Tuukka Rask, I think it's a pretty even call there. I think I'm moving it over to Vasi. He's got the experience. He's looking a lot better. I think he was a little shaky. A couple squeaky goals to start off. But I think in terms of sheer talent, I think he can outplay Jaroslav Halak if it was just mano-a-mano in that type of situation. I'm going to put my trust on Vasilevsky versus Jaroslav Halak. That's why the Lightning get the check mark there. Again, trading punches for punches, going back to the power play and penalty kill. Boston's got the advantage here. Boston's power play 25.2%. Lightning's only at 23.2%. Again, very, very similar, very close to each other. But those percentage points make a difference in the playoffs. Penalty kill, 84.1 for Boston. Lightning at 31.9. Significantly less in the playoffs. The big question is, are the Lightning still going to have 6 penalties called on them per game? Because if that's the case, call the series now in favor of Boston. I'm hoping that it was more so just weird officiating that's going to be cleaned up. Because I still can't believe the amount of penalties called on the Lightning. The Lightning, yes, they were among the most penalized teams. They actually might be second, right? Let's look at those stats. They were, all right, second most penalized team in the league. That doesn't mean that Columbus should have gotten 6 power plays to the Lightning 0. Okay, let's relax. I still think that we always have to be careful without making sure that we don't have that parade of going to the penalty box. But I'm hoping, again, Boston was the 6th most penalized team. Hoping it's going to be a little bit more even on the calls here. So we'll see what power play and what penalty kill comes to play for both teams. We'll see how that works out, but the advantage right now goes to Boston. Oh, Kevin jumping in. Great question. Do I think Stammer will be out the entire playoffs? It sure seems like it. That Stammer's always had a little bit of a history of being out of the playoffs, and John Cooper isn't necessarily the most honest in terms of who's ready to play and who's not ready to play, and it's all showmanship, right? I think Stamkos will be ready when he's ready, and I don't think we're going to know about it until it's game day, and you see Stamkos jumping around. But yeah, the report, of course, not ready for game 1. think they're going a game at a time now. That Cooper knows how to play it with the media. Coaching, I think the advantage goes to the Lightning. I think season 8 for John Cooper. He's gotten close to the promised land. Hopefully this is the year where he tastes victory. Not, of course, to take anything away from Bruce Cassidy. He's done a great job with Boston, of course, over the last few years. And I'm just more confident in Cooper right now. Overall, I mean, this is a tie. I mean, this is a series that we wanted to see all along. This is a team that you have to beat to prove that you deserve the Stanley Cup, and I can't wait. This is a 7 game series. I'm picking the Bolts, but if Boston wins this series, yes, you're going to be upset, but Boston's a good team. Boston's won the President's Trophy. Not that means anything these years, right? Usually the President's Trophy curse is alive and well. So hopefully the Lightning can take advantage of the curse there. So I'm calling the Bolts here. So the final calls, of course, for my series picks, I think it's going to be 1 and 2 on both sides. It's going to be a rare year where it's the 1 seeds and the 2 seeds. So I'm calling Vegas. I'm calling the Avalanche. I'm calling Philly to play the Lightning in the next round. So hopefully we'll be having a nice little preview of the Bolts renewing their conference finals against the Philadelphia Flyers. All right. Let's close it up tonight with some NHL picks, one of which is already absolutely destroyed. That's okay. That Avalanche straight up on the money line pick, already a big thumbs down on that one. Well, we got the thumbs down there. Yep, there it is. Womp womp. That's okay. We hit the over on that one. The over 5.5 for the Avalanche game. I'm doing something crazy here. I'm going Lightning on the puck line on the spread. I think they win by 2 goals tonight. I'm feeling a big Lightning win, like a 4-2, 5-3, something like that. Maybe an empty netter to seal the deal on the money on the puck line here. So -1.5 for the Bolts. They got to win by 2. I think this is going to be an over 5.5 as well. Looking to the Vegas Canucks series tonight, getting off tonight. I think Vegas wins straight up, taking them at -180. That's going to be a high-scoring series. I'm going to take the over 5.5 there. And I think tomorrow night, Philly and New York kicks off. I'm going to take New York to take the early series lead. They're paying almost even money, a little bit more than even money. But I think that's going to be a low-scoring game, maybe a 2-1 for victory for the Islanders. Is basically the only way we can hit the under there, right? Maybe 3-1. We'll see how that goes. With COVID, will there be an extra penalty when the rat licks someone's face? I would hope to see that. I don't know. I feel like he's been a little subdued lately. You haven't seen Brad Marchand too much in the news so far in terms of dirty play or anything. But he's that. If there's a definition of pest, it's definitely Brad Marchand, right? I don't know what's been going on with him. I feel like he's kind of, dropped off a little bit. Maybe he's focusing on his game. But he had a great season. I think he was almost 40 goals this year. Pretty great performance for Brad Marchand offensively. So we'll see how that goes this series with the Bolts and the Bruins. Those are my picks. Of course, be on the lookout. I'll be throwing picks out on Facebook every once in a while as well. And I'm keeping track of my picks too, so I can report back on percentages once we have a bigger sample size to see how badly I've been doing. And I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Thunderdome Puckcast. Thanks so much for sticking it out with me on a Sunday afternoon. Go enjoy the outdoors. Hopefully not raining yet in Florida. It's a nice day here in Texas. It's not 100 degrees, so that's always a big win when around here. We'll see you tonight for the post-game reaction show. That'll be a quick one right after the conclusion of the Lightning Bruins game, provided it doesn't go to 5 overtimes. I don't know if I could pull off a 5 overtime game that starts at 8 Eastern, especially with work tomorrow. So have a great Sunday. We'll see you next time.